last 2 days, I've been exploring the hill country on the back roads. These roads have been terrifying yet exhilarating to drive. They're narrow, twisty, steep, everything fun to drive, yet also dangerous. They were being very generous in saying they were 2-lane roads. I'd say they were a lane and a half at best. Typically, I have a very heavy foot, but I have certainly behaved myself. In fact, as I was coming up on one bend warning a speed limit of 20 miles per hour, I'm going, why would I speed up that fast to go around the bend? And the caution is warranted. Several sections of the road have warning signs about the number of deaths due to motorcycles. The current total for all of them that I've gone by is 36. But aside from the danger, it is absolutely beautiful out here. In Dallas, we tend to think of Fredericksburg as being the hill country, but this area puts that to shame. Aside from the Rio Fria resort area, there's very little commercial development, no wineries, just ranches and farms, with the occasional 1%er ranch tossed in there with their elaborate fences and walls. Just a beautiful, beautiful place to explore. It is Wednesday afternoon, or actually late afternoon, evening now, as the sun is setting behind the hills off to my left. Today was my last day here at Garner State Park. Despite that, I did a road trip. I drove 45 miles to Bandera, Texas, to go to the Frontier Times Museum. It's a very old school type of museum. They bill themselves as a curiosity cabinet type of museum, which means there's no themes, it's just all kind of stuff stuck in cabinets. The museum opened in the 1930s, and people are still giving them things. So some of the items were fairly new, while others date way back into the late 1800s. After that, I went to the Bandera Natural History Museum. That's an interesting museum, and it's actually two museums in one. Part of it features the art of New Spain. In other words, Mexico, Texas, the lower parts of North America, and also the Philippines, because there was a lot of commerce between the Philippines and what's now Mexico. And very interesting, beautiful, beautiful work. Of course, very Catholic based because of the time period and location. The other part of the museum is the natural history part of it. They have dioramas featuring different climates and locations all around the world that they've then added taxidermied animals. So it's kind of like a huge zoo without all of the feeding and pooing problems of a zoo. Enjoyed the visit. And then outside is the dinosaur walk with a series of full-size replicas of dinosaurs, so you can see how they compare to modern animals. After that, I made a quick trip by the hardware store, because when I was up in Glen Heights, I didn't need a water filter for the trailer, but a week here has shown me I desperately need one out and about. Beautiful day for a drive, no rain today, and as you can see, it's a beautiful evening. The park is absolutely glorious. I see why it's so popular, being the #1 state park in Texas. People are starting to come back in. Yesterday evening it was pretty much deserted, but just in my little corner of the campground, we've got 4 people setting up camp as I was driving by. And 2 of them are casitas. So that makes the 5th and 6th casitas I've seen this week. Um, the Garner State Park, in addition to the river and the swimming pool, well, not a pool, but a catchment area where most of the swimming happens, it's just part of the terrain here. There's beautiful meadows, there's trails up into the hills. You can actually hike to the top of the mountains you see behind me. I highly recommend making a stop here. On Thursday, it was time to move to my next destination, Davis Mountain State Park. Looking at my options, I decided to take US Highway 90 instead of Interstate 10. Time-wise, there wasn't that much difference. However, I've driven most of the I-10 route, and I've never been along that part of Highway 90. But also, I wanted to stop in Langtry, Texas to visit the Jersey Lily, the saloon/courthouse where Judge Roy Bean presided. I have overlaid the map of the route with one showing the desert, the name of which is on the screen. The desert is the dark gray area you see. Shortly after leaving Langtry, I entered the desert. Shortly after entering the desert, it began to rain and then storm. I drove through multiple waves of thunderstorms with heavy rain and strong gusty winds. There was so much water everywhere. It was weird seeing that much rain in the desert. I certainly could see why my favorite Western author, Louis L'Amour, would include scenes of flooded gullies. It was indeed scary to see how high the water got in some of them. At last, I reached my destination, Davis Mountain State Park. I loved the campsite. The site itself was quite nice with plenty of room, and as you can see, the views from it were fantastic. On Friday, I visited one of my major goals, the University of Texas's McDonald Observatory. I started by attending a lecture on the sun, which was quite interesting, and then did the guided tour to the 107-inch Harlan Smith telescope, followed by a visit to the Hobby Eberly telescope. We are on the fifth floor of the Harlan Smith Telescope building looking at the actual telescope. They explain the telescope can be customized with different lenses and instrument packages depending on what the researchers need.
Side of the polar axle, which is used to track the stars. As I lift the telescope upwards, the backside here is now revolving away from me. And so when we're moving the telescope north and south, we're changing the celestial latitude of the telescope.
That night, I attended the star party. It starts off with an overview of the constellations. Then they had 5 telescopes set up on different objects with staff available to explain what you were seeing. The weather was being difficult. Despite forecasts for clear skies, it was partly cloudy. A number of people left when the clouds got really thick, but then it cleared up enough for us to have plenty of time at the telescopes. I cannot recommend highly enough to visit the McDonald Observatory. That's it for week 2. Follow along to see where the roads take us next.